Let's get ourselves sat on the mat. And we can start an easy seated pose with one foot in front of the other. And let's bring our hands onto our knees, rolling our shoulders up and back, taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Noticing a softening in the face, the shoulders, and the upper back. Taking 2 more deep breaths in just like that, and sighing it out. Noticing the change of our posture with each exhalation. Noticing the length of our spine, and perhaps taking this first opportunity to visualize a ribbon wrapped around the spinal column, dancing up and down the spine with each inhalation, massaging and soothing all those muscles, all the tissues that run along the spine and that radiate out from the spine into the upper back, the mid back, and the low back. Bringing our awareness to our breath, the gentle inhale and exhale, in and out through our nose. And now perhaps setting an intention or an affirmation for today's class if we feel that might be useful. Bringing our awareness back to the space around us, the sounds and the smells. We blink our eyes open. And keeping our hands wrapped around our knees, we'll slowly roll ourselves in gentle circles in one direction. As big or as little of movement as our bodies allow. Bringing awareness and warmth to our hips, our backs and our shoulders. Gently pressing our knees towards the earth, trying to keep our sit bones on the mat. They may lift a little, that's all right. Coming back to center, we'll change directions. One more circle. And then we roll all the way back up to center. Switching our foot position, putting the opposite one in front. Readjusting. And then let's swim our arms in big circles, alternating sides. So inhaling, bringing one arm up, exhaling, lowering. Bringing ourselves back to center, lifting the opposite arm. We may want to keep the hand on the knee for a bit of extra rotation, using it for leverage. Just ensuring that we're moving at a slow and gentle pace with a gentle rotation of the spine. And perhaps starting to follow the hand with our gaze, if that feels good on the neck. We'll do 2 more on each side. Good. Coming back to center, bringing both of our arms above our shoulders. And we'll rotate in one direction, either an open or a closed rotation, depending on where you want to keep your front arm. Pressing the fingertips into the earth, lifting the spine, gazing over the shoulder, breathing into any areas of discomfort. Exhaling the melting of those areas, those tight spots. Two more breaths here. And we'll swing our arms above our shoulders, coming back to center. And we'll come down to the opposite side. Again, pressing the fingertips into the earth, lifting the torso, creating space between each vertebrae to the upper back and neck. Possibly noticing a softening in the hips, as well as the upper back and neck. Big breaths, filling our lungs, expanding our rib cage laterally, helping to massage away any areas of tension. For 2 more breaths. Inhaling, we reach our arms back up, coming to center. Exhale, we hinge forward, keeping our sit bones connected to the mat. Pressing the knees away actively and slowly starting to hinge forward, melting into the hips, stretching out the lower back, possibly coming down onto the forearms, using our fingers, our hands, and our arms as support, now maybe even the elbows. Just finding that contact with the earth for support. Appreciating any micro changes in the areas of tension that we might have. Each little micro gain is still a gain, and we celebrate that. Walking our hands back out, pressing up onto our fingertips again. And we're going to lift our left arm up on the inhale and then lower it on the exhale, staying on the left. Inhaling, reaching up. Exhale, lowering the hand back down. We reconnect and then reset. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Continuing this motion with our breath. Opening and closing. Again, finding a little bit of space in the chest as we warm into the lower back. Actively pressing our knees towards the earth. Three more. Last one here. Taking a big deep breath in between sides and sighing it out. And when you're ready, go ahead and do the same motion with the opposite arm. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, lowering. Slowly gaining mobility as our lower back warms. going to the speed of our breath. We're not pushing anything too far, too fast. Getting into the connected tissues with our gentle dynamic movements. Releasing tension. One more big breath. And we reset in the center. Deep breaths in, pressing into our shoulder blades, letting our heads hang heavy. One more breath. Good. Pressing ourselves up, walking our hands in, opening up our legs into a wide seated pose. Extending the legs towards the edges of the mat. And we press ourselves forward, keeping our feet flexed. And we'll come into some gentle side bends. So once again, bringing our left arm up to start. Hinging at the hips, over towards the right leg. Starting with our feet flexed, toes are pointed to the sky, allowing the right arm to fall naturally wherever it will. And of course, if we want extra depth to our stretch, we can use our hand as leverage, sinking into the left side of the lower back. Reaching our left hand over our ears, or of course bringing it onto our head or behind our back, wherever it feels most comfortable. Holding here, noticing changes in any sensations that we might have. Bringing our awareness as well to the breath, ensuring the steady inhale and exhale, that we're not forcing ourselves into any position unnecessarily. Supporting our head with our lower hand if that's desirable. We'll be here for 3 more breaths. Slowly melting towards the right. And then on each exhalation, we'll slowly start lowering our left arm, pivoting our torso towards the earth. Big breaths and movement with the exhalation. Hinging over the right leg, bringing our arms to either side of the leg. And now hinging forward, elongating the spine, maybe pressing the earth away if that helps to elongate. And then with the exhalations, we sink. Perhaps bringing the left arm across the right leg if that feels good on the lower back. Checking in with the hamstring and the calf muscle. Trying to keep the right foot flexed for additional depth. But of course, we do what works for us today in this moment. One more big breath here. Now we slowly walk ourselves all the way back up. Bringing our torso to center, gently coming back to center. Readjusting as needed. And then we'll come over to the left side so the right arm floats up above our shoulder. We slowly sink over to the left, noticing that perhaps our flexibility on one side is different than the other. That's all right. Just take note of it and honor the state of our body. Again, checking in with the breath to make sure we're not pushing too far, too fast. Using our lower hand to support the head as needed. And bringing our right arm to wherever is desirable, over the ear, onto the head, or behind the back. Maybe using our toe as leverage to start hinging ourselves towards the left a little bit more. Two more breaths. And then with each exhalation, we slowly hinge, rotating our torso, lowering the right arm, bringing our torso parallel to the floor, over top of the extended left leg, allowing the arms to float to the earth, checking in with the hamstring, the knee and the calf muscle, keeping our toes flexed, pointed up to the sky, elongating the spine and hinging over that left leg. And perhaps as tension releases, we can wrap our right arm around our left leg, but we find whatever pose suits us. Letting our breath guide us. Finding the support that we need. The support is always there. We just have to ask for it or be willing to find it. Letting go of our egos, not the easiest thing in the world. Two more breaths here. Melting. And we walk ourselves back up using our hands, coming out of that intense pose and coming back to center. Good job. Wiggling out the legs, bringing them out in front of us. Dandasana, staff pose. Give them a little wiggle. Rolling the shoulders back. Maybe roll the ankles, pointing and flexing the feet. Good. Bringing the hands underneath our shoulders. We're going to bring our feet in so that our knees are about 90 degrees, the feet are hip width, and let's float our way up into a reverse table, lifting our hips, de-stacking the knees over top of the ankles, rocking side to side if that feels good, just checking in with the shoulders and the upper arms. I'm still feeling our press-ups from our last session. Check in with the upper back, noticing any tweaks that we may be able to work through today in our practice. And we'll slowly lower ourselves down, bringing our hips back to the earth. And then we'll wrap our arms around the back of our legs to give ourselves a big hug. An active hug here, pressing into the spine, rounding the spine as we lower our chins to our chest. Pressing into the shoulder blades, pressing into the lower back. Deep breaths here. And if you'd like to float through a gentle cat-to-cow series, we can inhale, lifting our chests through our arms, drawing the shoulder blades in and back. And exhale, lowering our chins to chest, rounding into the spine again, floating through the rhythm of our breath. Lifting our heads with our chests, gazing up. And then we round back up, pressing into our shoulder blades and spine. Gentle arch, and rounding. We'll do 2 more. Big breaths or big movements. Now we reset. Bringing our hands back underneath our shoulders. Bringing our feet back to about hip width, and again pressing up into our reverse table. Lifting our hips once again, pressing into the front of the arms. Lifting our chest high. Engaging the glutes to protect our lower backs. Two more breaths here. And we lower all the way back down. Good. Extending the legs out in front of us. Back to our staff pose, Dandasana. Bringing our hands behind our backs, interlacing. Lifting our arms off the earth and slowly hinging forward slightly, pressing into the hamstrings, and then coming back up. Pressing forward slightly, and coming back up. Erect torso. 3 more like that. Keeping the shoulder blades in and down, lifting the arms, working into the chest and the upper arms. Releasing the hands, lifting the arms over top of our shoulders. Oh, starting to feel a bit of a release, hinging forward. Keeping the toes flexed down once again, just keeping ourselves here, melting into the hamstrings, and the calf muscles, maybe even the lower back. Option here to hold a passive Dandasana. Option to bring our hands around our feet. Option, of course, is to pulse. Just finding that movement or the pose that feels good. One more big breath here, in whichever pose you choose. And we roll ourselves up, stacking one vertebrae at a time, shoulders, neck, and head, wiggling out the ankles. We've done a lot of toe pointing. And we're going to slowly come into all fours. Rolling ourselves up, grabbing a sip of water if that is needed. Good. And once we get here, finding our knees under our hips, hands under our chest, and shifting left to right. Adding some lateral flexion in our movement, allowing the head to hang heavy. And breathing normally. Feeling warmth and light in the lower back as we shift our hips and weight left to right. Now we'll come back to center, neutral. We'll run through a bird dog just to engage the glutes a bit, continuing to strengthen our glutes to protect and bulletproof our lower backs. The left leg will extend all the way out, keeping it driving into the mat or lifting. Extending the right arm alongside the ear, option 2. Option 3 is to float into a crunch, engaging the abs, engaging the lower back and the glutes. What would a session be without building some gluteus muscle? Not only building strength, but with our active motion, we break through a bit of tissue that may be stuck. We break through cobwebs. This is helpful in trying to create a little bit more release of tension. Good, last one. We reset, shifting, rounding out, rinsing that out. It may sound counterintuitive to build the muscles and to keep working the muscles that may feel tight, but in doing so gently and with purpose, we can in fact release a little bit of that built up tension and energy. So let's do the same thing on the other side. Extending the right leg, toes are pointed down. Lifting, option 1. Extending the arm, option 2. Option 3, crunching in. With purpose, floating with our motion of our breath. Building the abdomen as well. Not only creates stability for our core, but it also helps to counterbalance any weakness in the lower back and the glutes. We want balance on both sides of our bodies. Imbalance will only lead to additional pain and compensation of one of those muscle groups. One more reach here, or breath. We reset, we rinse out, rounding, shifting, whatever feels good. Just do that. And we'll step ourselves up into a down dog, curling our toes under our shins, deep breaths in. And on the exhale, we lift our hips. Pressing the heels towards the earth. Option to pedal out the legs if that feels better. You know the options. Lifting our hips, creating length in the back of the body, allowing our heads to hang heavy between our arms, creating all that yummy space between our vertebrae, from the tailbone through to the head. Maybe even shifting the head left to right. Good. And we'll float our left leg above the earth, all the way up as high as we can, pressing all of our weight into the right heel. Option to bend the left knee and to rotate the hips open. Being careful not to poke the tiger, as we say. If we have tension in the lower back, perhaps this isn't the right pose for us today. We come back to a normal down dog. Finding that fine balance between poking too much and release. Good. Rotating ourselves back to center. And we'll draw our left knee into our chest, floating into our plank, holding here, pressing into the shoulder blades, allowing the head to hang heavy. Engage in the abdomen. Gentle rounding of the spine. We're lifted up on the toes of the right foot, drawing the knee in towards our chest, creating a little bit of energy in our arms and our shoulders. Awesome. Bringing the left knee to the left elbow, pigeon pose. Yummy. Floating ourselves backwards, As our right foot slides, drawing our torso back, creating a bit of space for that left leg, flattening the back right foot, and then lifting our chest high, opening up the abdomen, breathing into the lower back. And with each exhale, we can slowly hinge forward over our left leg, provided that our hips are forward facing, with our hands or our elbows, our forearms, our fists, what have you, slowly melting over the left leg. Breathing into any discomfort we may have in the knee, in the hip flexor, in the hip, even the glute. Taking the opportunity to melt it away. And if you do reach the ground, there is the option to extend the right arm beyond the head and to thread the left arm through the needle. That might feel good on the lower back, but of course, all is optional. Good. Coming back to center, walking our hands in, and we'll roll out of that, coming all the way back into our down dog, slowly floating through our all fours. Deep breaths in, curling our toes under our shins, and we lift our hips. Yummy. Perhaps now we wish to pedal that out. Checking in with any new sensations we may have in the back of the legs, maybe in the back of the knees. And we'll come back to center, lifting our right leg off the earth, holding here for a few breaths, pressing all of our weight into our left heel. And then option to bend the right knee, rotating open, stacking the knee on top of the hips. Finding strength in our upper body. And a calm, gentle rhythm of breath as we create space in our lower back and our side body. Good. Floating back to center, bringing our right knee in towards our chest. We float into our single leg plank, up on the toes of the left foot, pressing into the shoulder blades, rounding our spine. Heads are hanging heavy. We're engaging our abdomen by drawing the right knee up to our chest. Calm, steady rhythm of breath, generating energy in our upper body. 2 more breaths here, and then we float into our pigeon. Right knee comes to the right elbow. Good, lowering that down. And then drawing ourselves back with the left foot. Gently flattening the left foot, keeping our hands on the earth. We press our torsos up. Deep breaths in, filling the lungs, filling the abdomen, opening up, and breathing into the lower back. As and when we're ready, we can hinge forward, slowly melting our torso over our right leg. our hands as support. And again, we don't push too far too fast. There's no expectation here. Honoring our bodies and appreciating the micro gains we might be able to make here today. Melting into our hips, melting into our glutes. Continuing to create space in our minds by focusing on the physical sensations that we may be feeling. For all those new and positive thoughts, emotions, and energy to come to us. Perhaps we wish to visualize lightness coming into our heads, maybe into our third eye, between our eyebrows, and filling ourselves with that light and warmth, creating space for us to melt away all the tension. An option, of course, to thread the needle if we're melted close enough to the earth. Just keeping in mind we do what's best for our bodies. Three more breaths here. And we'll slowly come back to center, bringing our hands under our chests and press ourselves up. Rolling over onto the right hip, coming back into all fours, and slowly rinsing all of that yumminess out. Stepping up into our down dog. Again, option to pedal. That might feel good on the right leg now as it did on the left. Ensuring that our heads are hanging heavy. Appreciating any new sensations that we may have. Bring back to center, pressing our heels towards the earth. And we'll float our left hand and wrap it around the right leg, similar to what we did in our Dandasana, but now we have gravity working for us. Noticing what's happening, running from the left side of the neck, down the shoulder, the left side of the body, into the lower back, across and down the right leg, keeping our heads hanging heavy. Our right arms are strong. One more big breath. We reset and switch sides. Right hand comes around the left leg, wherever it finds its way naturally. And then once again, we visualize all the way from the right side of the neck down into the shoulder blade, right side of the body, lower back, across and down the left side of the leg. Excellent. Resetting. Pedaling it out, maybe wiggling around the ankles, lifting the foot off the earth. Good. Left leg once again comes all the way up, pressing our weight into the right leg. And we're going to float our way forward into a low lunge. Stepping And gazing forward, left leg comes up, right knee lowers to the ground. We bring our hands onto our left knee. Good support, and we float forward. Holding here, we're slowly going to melt towards the mat, allowing our hip flexor of the right leg to slowly open, ensuring we have stability and equal balance in both legs. Option, of course, is to bring our right hand to the earth or to lift it over our shoulder. Breathing into the front of the body, all the way down the right side, through the abdomen into the hip flexor and the psoas. Option to bend over to the left. Bringing our left hand to the earth may be a good idea for added security. And then we'll lower our right arm parallel to the floor, reaching over the left leg. Gentle rotation of the spine. Left hand can stay on the earth or float up to the knee, whatever is preferable. Gently gazing over the left shoulder. Excellent. Bringing the right hand back down to the earth, planting it on the inside of the left foot. You know where we're going. Left arm comes up and reaches back, holding here. Option, of course, to bring the right leg off the earth. Maybe walking the left foot out for added stability. You may want to shift left and right, just checking in. Option, of course, to grab onto the right foot with the left hand, keeping our torsos tall, pressing away from the earth, gazing back, opening the chest and the arm. Noticing the sensations between both arms in whatever pose we are. Reaching a wide wingspan. And then the added bonus of working into the quadricep here, drawing the heel closer to the glute. Stable in whatever pose we choose. Two more breaths. Releasing out of that, coming back to center. And before we switch sides, we're going to sink our hips all the way back towards our heel, extending our left leg long, flexing our toes. Ooh, feeling that in the knee. Pressing our torsos tall, hinging over the left leg. Holding here. Another chance to sink into the hamstring and the calf muscle. But not collapsing, the torso is tall. Three more breaths. Good. Slowly pressing ourselves back forward. We step out of that into our down dog, extending our left leg high. Oh, pressing it up. All the weight again shifts into the right leg. And then we float back into our normal down dog. Pedaling it out, taking our few breaths in between before we reset to the other side. Good. Finding our stillness and lifting our right leg off the earth. Slowly floating forward, gazing forward, bringing our right leg to the mat, low lunge. Left knee comes down, left foot flattens, And we find our stability here, sinking forwards into the hip flexor on the left side. Tall chest and torso. Mounting forward, finding support where needed. Option to bring the left arm above the shoulders. Option to come into a side bend over the right leg. An option to float the left arm across the knee, gentle rotation. Right hand can stay on the leg or it can come to the earth. Breathing into the hip flexor on the left side. And then we bring our left hand back down to the earth. Good. Maybe walking our right foot over to the mat a little bit for added stability. Bringing our right arm all the way back, sinking into the hip flexor, holding here. Option to bring the left foot off the earth, to reach for it, holding a tall torso, opening the chest and the wingspan, and gently drawing the heel in towards the glute. Bring our mind focused on our sensations, allowing any distractions to float through our mind. Holding here for 3 more breaths. Appreciating those micro gains. And then we float out of that gently. Coming back to center, stepping back into our single leg down dog, extending our right legs high. Good. And then floating the right leg down. Coming back into our down dog, pedaling it out. Taking a few breaths here to rinse all of that yumminess out. Or to imprint it in our bodies. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and find stillness here, pressing both heels towards the earth, feeling all of the strength and energy generated in the upper body. And we'll slowly lower our knees to the earth, coming into a child's pose. Walking our hands out, sinking our hips back. Taking a few moments here. Sinking into the hip joints, rocking or finding stillness as preferred. And perhaps taking the opportunity to reflect on any intention or affirmation that we set at the beginning of our practice. Option to float the hands behind the back, interlacing, rolling the shoulder blades in and back, lifting the arms. Once again, breathing the wingspan wide as we reach our fingers and our hands to the sky. Breathing into our chest and our upper arms, all the way through the elbows, into the wrists and the fingers. Floating our arms back down whenever we're ready. Pressing ourselves up into rock pose, onto our knees, tucking our toes under our shins. Making sure the pinky toes cooperate. Resetting here. Let's go ahead and eagle our arms. The left arm comes under the right. We bring the inside of our palms together. And on the inhale, we're going to lift our arms up to the sky. Exhale, we're going to roll them back down. Rolling into the shoulder blades, into the arms. Option to add a gentle cat-cow if that's desirable. Arching and rounding the spine. Moving to the rhythm of our breath, continuing to float through this session. Creating floatiness in our bodies and our minds. Two more. And then rotating over to the left. Gentle rotation. Deep breaths in. And inhaling back to center, we release coming out of that. Arms and feet, tapping it out in between. Option to come back into toes pose or to flatten the feet. Wrapping our right arm under the left. And then we inhale, lifting our arms up. Exhale, we lower. Floating up and down with our breath. Option, of course, to add a cat-cow or to focus on the arms and the shoulders. Three more breaths. Coming back to neutral, we rotate over to the right, gently drawing our left arm over to the right side of the body. Maybe even gazing and rotating our head a little bit farther back. One more breath. And we come back to center. Good. Coming out of that, releasing the arms, releasing the feet into all fours, tapping them out if you were in toes pose. Resetting into our tabletop, all fours. Inhaling cat. Lifting our heads. Arching our lower back. Exhale, we round back out, pressing into our shoulder blades. Gazing back. Four more just like that. Slow and steady. Two more. Feeling the entire body activated and energized. An opportunity to come into another child's pose. Knees can be wide or narrow. We sink ourselves back towards our hips, finding stillness or shifting our weight, perhaps supporting our forehead with our fists or our hands, and perhaps just taking this moment to sink into our happy place, visualizing the space, the colors, the lightness, the temperatures, and the smells. Allowing ourselves the opportunity to imprint the practice into our bodies and our muscle fibers. Appreciating the space that we've created, not only in our muscles and ligaments, but in our minds. Taking the opportunity to set a new intention or affirmation for the hours and days ahead. Reminding ourselves to listen to our bodies, to hear the signs that our bodies tell us, to continue to create this space so that those ideas can come to us and that we hear them. And then either staying here in child's pose or floating into prone pose, we finish our session. In whatever pose feels good and comfortable for us. Just to enjoy the yumminess of the moment, maintaining our presence here, focused on ourselves, our practice and our community. When we're ready, we can come back and take on the day ahead. Not rushing or forcing ourselves back. Retaining a piece of this Zen, floaty moment. Giving thanks for the opportunity to practice. Thanks for the support and love of this community. The support that is always there. We just need to be willing to ask for it and to receive it. The light in me sees a light in you. And I wish you continued bliss, making sure that you do what's best for you. Thanks so much for joining me today.